So for more reaction, we go live to Washington. We welcome Behnam Taleblu, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Behnam, thank you so much for your time on this extraordinary story. An intelligence unit in Tehran saying they've thwarted one of the largest sabotage plots targeting Iran's missile, aviation and airspace military industry. They say they have 14 Mossad agents. What do you make of this claim? Some are skeptical.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. There's really a ton to unpack there,
Sure.
and really from any angle, technical, intelligence, political, and policy, you name it, there's both breadth and depth to this story. And Occam's razor approach is the political view to say that as the regime is nearing the one-year anniversary of nationwide anti-government protests, touched off by the killing of a 22-year-old Iranian Kurdish woman named Mahsa Amini, Iran would use any national security excuse to take political prisoners, to feign the capturing of any kind of foreign agent, to be able to signal strength when in reality the regime continues to look weak to many people who continue protesting at home. That's one potential vector. Another is, if you broaden the aperture, there were stories in the New York Times, I think about half a decade ago, that talked about an older intelligence operation allegedly linked to America to introduce exactly what is at play here, which is faulty components that could be used into future, could be brought into future long-range strikes, such as missile or potentially space or satellite launch vehicle capabilities that U.S. intelligence was looking at. It would not surprise me if Israel was similarly interested in constraining and restraining Iran's long-range strike programs to include missile, ballistic, and cruise, as well as drone. So there could be a kernel of truth there. Or it could be entirely fabricated. So there is both breadth and depth. There's timing, and then there's also this broader aperture of who is interested in constraining this program. So much more than meets the eye, in my view.
And Israel obviously is not responding. I mean, that is definitely no surprise. But could even the suggestion of sabotage by Mossad impact the current efforts between Washington and Tehran to reach their own kind of understanding? Is that likely, or does it have no impact at all? Your thoughts?
I would assume, if one believes that the Biden administration is intent on, as I believe it is, settling for some kind of lesser, smaller, informal, unwritten understanding, then that is unlikely in the short to medium term to have an impact. But the Iranians are likely going to be pointing a finger at anyone putting pressure on their nuclear program as they feign some kind of restraint. And that gets into the other story that you mentioned at the lead there, which is not the change in the enriched uranium output or stockpile, but rather a turning down briefly of the pace of enrichment to 60% purity, which, just as a reminder, is already highly enriched.
And do you think that, in fact, Iran is slowing down its production of highly enriched uranium? Very briefly, please.
Just based on those reports, if one believes the IAEA, certainly, but that's not the problem. The stockpile continues to grow. This is basically a volume knob on a radio when you have a problematic neighbor turning it up, turning it down as they please, as the Islamic Republic is doing.
Certainly fascinating developments across this region. We always appreciate your insight. Behnam Taleblu, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, live from Washington. Thank you for your time, as always.
Thank you.